I mean, it's a fascinating poll this week, Matt. I mean, as I was saying earlier on, I would have perhaps thought that the figures may have been the other way round.
Well, good morning, Stephen. Well, I think the polling is pretty consistent with what we've got in the national story from other polls and so on. There is some pretty significant support for the strikes in some parts of the country. That's especially true among Labour voters, for example. But at the same time, it's also true that Rishi Sunak and the government are clearly being blamed more than any other factor for these strikes. And I think politically, that's where the real challenge is for Rishi Sunak. Some of your viewers, Stephen, will remember the 1970s, where, of course, the Labour Party was blamed widely for the industrial chaos, which, of course, set the stage for Margaret Thatcher. This time around, it's Rishi Sunak and the Conservatives who are, more than anybody else, being blamed for the chaos in Britain.
That's right. And it's when we asked who you blame, it's very clearly people, whether or not they actually blame the government, they certainly feel disgruntled that the government's not doing enough to just end all this misery.
I think that's right. I think what we're seeing, not only this week, but in all of our polling, is a sense among people that Britain isn't really working at the moment, that we've got these strikes, that we've got a sort of struggling recovery from COVID, that we've got inflation, that we've got a cost of living crisis. And if you look at all of that, it's really bad news for an incumbent government. We know that strikes tend to reduce support for the government at the next election. We know that from lots of other countries. We know that inflation and the cost of living crisis tend to really hurt whoever is in power. And now we can see clearly that not inflation, not trade unions, not workers, but the government is taking the bulk of the blame for this chaos. And that is going to, I think, hurt Rishi Sunak.